Doctor, and you're going to tell me?
I'm telling you nothing.
Do you think that I'm going to sacrifice the lives of 6,000 people on the opinion of a plane?
One director spent $3 million just to blow up a real bridge. Another film used actual Nazi propaganda footage, and nobody noticed for decades. Kirk Douglas punched out his own director on set. Gregory Peck played a Nazi so convincingly that he got death threats. And one movie was so massive that they had to invent new camera technology just to shoot it. These are the 15 best World War II movies of the 1960s. Number 15. The Train.
We started this whole thing for one reason, to stop the train, because the Allies were going to be here. Well, where are they? Every day they've been doomed. And every day a man has been killed for thinking...
John Frankenheimer took over this production after Arthur Penn got fired, and what he delivered was one of the most intense action films of the decade. Burt Lancaster plays a French railway inspector, working with the resistance to stop a Nazi colonel from stealing priceless French artwork and shipping it back to Germany on a train. The premise is simple, but the execution is incredible. Frankenheimer insisted on doing everything practically. No miniatures, no rear projection. When a train crashes, they crashed a real train. When a building explodes, they blow up a real building. Lancaster did most of his own stunts, nearly got killed multiple times, and came away with a legitimate respect for how insane Frankenheimer's vision was. The film cost $3 million, which was huge for 1964, and most of that budget went toward destroying real locomotives and rail yards. Frankenheimer shot in France using actual locations from the war, and the authenticity shows. The trains look real because they are real. The explosions look devastating because they are devastating. Paul Scofield plays the Nazi colonel, and he is fantastic. Cold, cultured, and utterly convinced he is saving civilization by stealing art. The film does not make him a screaming villain. He is intelligent, rational, and completely wrong. That subtlety makes him far more dangerous than if he were just evil. Critics loved it. Bosley Crowther at the New York Times called it a spectacle of dynamic action. The film made over $7 million worldwide and became one of the most successful war films of the 60s. Lancaster later said, "The Train was one of the most physically demanding shoots of his career, but also one of the best films he ever made. Frankenheimer proved he could handle massive action set pieces without sacrificing character or intelligence, and The Train remains a masterclass in practical filmmaking." Number 14. The Longest Day.
Good half that many ships.
I won't. Wait.
This thing is an absolute monster. 3 directors, 42 international stars, 5 hours of footage cut down to 3, and a budget of $10 million that ballooned into one of the most expensive black and white films ever made. The Longest Day recreates D-Day from multiple perspectives, American, British, French, and German, and it does it with a scale that still impresses today. Daryl Zanuck produced and basically ran the entire production like a military operation. Ken Anakin directed the British sequences, Andrew Martin handled the American scenes, and Bernhard Wicki shot the German perspective. The coordination required was insane, but Zanuck pulled it off. Thousands of extras, real landing craft, authentic locations in Normandy, and a commitment to historical accuracy that was rare for Hollywood epics. The cast is ridiculous. John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, Henry Fonda, Richard Burton, Sean Connery, Rod Steiger, Robert Ryan, all of them taking small roles in the service of the bigger story. Nobody is the star. The invasion is the star. That ensemble approach makes the film feel epic in a way most war movies do not. What sets The Longest Day apart is the German perspective. Most American war films in the 60s portrayed Germans as faceless bad guys. This one gives them personalities, strategies, and shows their confusion as the invasion unfolds. It is still clearly a pro-Allied film, but it respects the Germans enough to show them as soldiers, not cartoon villains. The combat scenes are massive. The Omaha beach sequence uses hundreds of extras storming the shore while explosions go off around them. The paratrooper drops, the glider landings, the street fighting in Sainte-Mère-Église. All of it was shot practically with real stunts and real coordination. The film made over $50 million worldwide, making it one of the biggest hits of 1962. It won 2 Oscars and became the definitive D-Day film until Saving Private Ryan came along 36 years later. Even today, historians praise The Longest Day for getting the details right and treating the invasion with the respect it deserved. Number 13, The Great Escape.
We have in effect put all our rotten eggs in one basket. And we intend to watch this basket carefully.
Very wise.
There will be no escapes from this.
John Sturges directed this prisoner of war film, and it became one of the most iconic World War II movies ever made. Steve McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson, and James Coburn star as Allied prisoners plotting an elaborate escape from a German POW camp. The film is based on a true story, though Hollywood took liberties, especially with McQueen's motorcycle chase that never actually happened. The real Great Escape took place in March 1944 at Stalag Luft 3. 76 men escaped through tunnels, 50 were executed by the Gestapo, and only 3 made it to freedom. The film softens some of that brutality and adds action sequences for entertainment, but the core story remains powerful. McQueen was supposed to be a supporting player, but he demanded more screen time and got it. The motorcycle chase was written specifically for him, even though no motorcycles were involved in the real escape. Sturges gave McQueen what he wanted because he knew audiences would love it, and he was right. That chase is now the most famous sequence in the film. The ensemble cast works beautifully. Attenborough plays the mastermind organizer, Garner is the scrounger who can get anything, Bronson is the tunnel digger fighting claustrophobia, and Coburn is the forger. Everyone has a role, everyone gets moments, and the film never feels overcrowded despite having a dozen major characters. The escape itself is tense and brilliantly shot. The tunnel digging, the dirt disposal, the forged documents, all of it feels real because Sturges focused on procedure over action. You understand exactly how the plan works, which makes it even more devastating when it starts falling apart. The film made over $11 million and became a massive hit. Elmer Bernstein's score became iconic. The film is still shown on television in the United Kingdom every year and remains a favorite among World War II film fans. McQueen reportedly based his entire performance on his own experiences in reform school, where he learned to manipulate authority figures and look for ways out. That edge shows in every scene he is in. Number 12, The Guns of Navarone.
Watch out!
J. Lee Thompson directed this massive action adventure about a team of commandos sent to destroy giant German coastal guns on a Greek island. Gregory Peck, David Niven, and Anthony Quinn lead the mission, and the whole thing plays like a proto-special forces thriller decades before the genre existed. The film cost $6 million, a fortune in 1961, and most of that went into building the massive gun emplacements and blowing them up. They shot on location in Greece, and the production was a logistical nightmare. The weather was unpredictable, the Greek government was difficult, and the cast nearly mutinied multiple times because Thompson kept pushing for dangerous stunts. Carl Foreman wrote the script based on Alistair MacLean's novel, and he packed it with moral dilemmas. Should they leave a wounded man behind? Can they trust a local resistance fighter who might be a traitor? Is destroying the guns worth the lives it will cost? The film does not give easy answers, which was unusual for early 60s war movies that usually played everything straight. Gregory Peck plays the team leader, and he is excellent. Tough, calculating, but visibly struggling with the impossible decisions he has to make. David Niven is the explosives expert, bringing his usual charm, but also showing exhaustion and doubt. Anthony Quinn plays a Greek resistance fighter with a personal vendetta, and his chemistry with Peck drives the film's second half. The final assault on the guns is spectacular. Massive explosions, gunfights on cliffsides, the whole fortress collapsing into the sea. Thompson used scale models for some shots, but most of the effects were practical and real stunt work. The climax still holds up because it feels dangerous and chaotic. The Guns of Navarone made over $28 million worldwide and won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. It launched a whole subgenre of men on a mission war films, and proved audiences wanted complicated, morally complex action movies, not just propaganda. Number 11. Hell in the Pacific. John Boorman directed this two-man character study starring Lee Marvin as an American pilot and Toshiro Mifune as a Japanese naval officer, both stranded on a deserted Pacific island. There is almost no dialogue. The two men do not speak each other's language. The entire film is just them trying to survive, fighting each other, then reluctantly working together. This was a bold experiment for a major studio release. No battle scenes, no supporting cast, just two actors on an island for 103 minutes. Boorman shot it in Palau with a tiny crew, and the production was hellish. The heat was unbearable, supplies were limited, and Marvin was drinking heavily the entire time. Mifune and Marvin barely spoke to each other off camera. The language barrier was real, and Boorman used it. He wanted genuine confusion and frustration between the characters, so he kept them isolated from each other during downtime. The tension you see on screen is not entirely acting. The film explores the absurdity of war by reducing it to two men with no reason to fight except that their countries told them to. At first, they try to kill each other. Then they realize survival requires cooperation. The film asks whether national hatred is stronger than the human instinct to survive together, and it does not give a clean answer. The ending was controversial. The original cut had the two men reach a ruined city and realize that war is pointless. Test audiences hated it, so the studio shot an alternate ending that is more ambiguous. Different versions exist depending on which market the film played in. Hell in the Pacific bombed. Audiences in 1968 wanted explosions and heroes, not a philosophical meditation on the futility of conflict. But over time, it has been reappraised as one of the most unique and thought-provoking war films of the decade. Number 10. Judgment at Nuremberg.
What was it like for you living under Hitler?
We were not political. Mr. Halberstadt and I are not political. Ein Glas für die Milch, bitte.
Yeah.
Stanley Kramer directed this courtroom drama about the Nuremberg trials, and it remains one of the most powerful examinations of guilt, complicity, and justice ever put on film. Spencer Tracy plays the American judge presiding over the trial of 4 German judges accused of crimes against humanity for enforcing Nazi racial laws. The cast is stacked. Burt Lancaster, Richard Widmark, Marlene Dietrich, Judy Garland, Montgomery Clift, and Maximilian Schell, who won the Oscar for Best Actor. The film runs 3 hours and 11 minutes, and most of it takes place in a single courtroom. Kramer was not interested in action or spectacle. He wanted to explore how ordinary people, educated professionals, became complicit in genocide. The German judges on trial were not SS officers. They were legal scholars who convinced themselves they were just following the law. Maximilian Schell plays the defense attorney, and his performance is incredible. He argues that his clients were products of their time, that they believed they were serving justice, and that the victors have no right to judge them. The film does not dismiss these arguments. It lets them breathe, then systematically dismantles them through testimony and evidence. The most devastating moments come from the witnesses. Judy Garland plays a German woman who had a relationship with a Jewish man and was forced to testify against him under the racial laws. Montgomery Clift plays a man sterilized by the Stout for being deemed mentally unfit. Both actors were struggling with personal demons during filming, and their raw vulnerability makes their scenes almost unbearable to watch. Kramer used actual Nazi footage in the film, including concentration camp liberations footage that shocked audiences. The scenes are brief but brutal, reminding viewers exactly what these legal decisions led to. Critics debated whether showing that footage was necessary or exploitative. Kramer argued it was essential to understand the stakes. The film made over $16 million and was nominated for 11 Oscars, winning 2. It sparked massive debate about collective guilt, the nature of evil, and whether following orders is ever a defense. Judgment at Nuremberg is not entertainment. It is a moral reckoning, and it remains essential viewing. Number 9. Von Ryan's Express. Mark Robson directed this Frank Sinatra prisoner of war escape thriller, and it is one of the most entertaining World War II films of the 60s. Sinatra plays Colonel Joseph Ryan, an American pilot shot down over Italy who ends up in a POW camp and leads a mass escape by hijacking a German train. The film is part character study, part action thriller, and it moves like a freight train. Sinatra was paid $250,000 plus a percentage of the profits, and he earned it. His character starts as an outsider, hated by the British prisoners for collaborating with the Italians to improve conditions. They call him Von Ryan as an insult, implying he is a Nazi sympathizer. But Ryan is playing a longer game, and once Italy surrenders, he takes over and engineers one of the most audacious escapes of the war. The train hijacking is the film's centerpiece, and Robson shot it practically. Real trains, real tunnels, real locations across Italy and Austria. The production was massive, involving Italian and Spanish railways, hundreds of extras, and complex stunt coordination. When planes strafe the train, those are real aircraft doing real low passes. The danger was genuine. Trevor Howard plays the British officer who clashes with Sinatra throughout the film. Their dynamic is tense and believable. Howard thinks Sinatra is a coward. Sinatra thinks Howard is a stubborn fool. They are both right and both wrong, and watching them slowly earn each other's respect is one of the film's best elements. The ending shocked audiences in 1965. Sinatra's character does not make it. He gets gunned down in the final minutes trying to help others escape. For a major Hollywood star, dying unheroically was rare. Sinatra fought for that ending because he thought it was honest and earned. The studio was terrified it would hurt the box office. It did not. Von Ryan's Express grossed over $17 million worldwide and became one of the year's biggest hits. Critics praised the action and Sinatra's performance. The film is still considered one of the best POW escape movies ever made, right up there with The Great Escape. Number 8. Battle of the Bulge. Ken Anakin directed this massive recreation of Hitler's last major offensive on the Western Front, and it is gloriously inaccurate. The film stars Henry Fonda, Robert Shaw, Robert Ryan, and Telly Savalas, and tells a story that takes enormous liberties with history, but delivers spectacular tank battles and huge action set pieces. Historians hate it. Tank enthusiasts love it anyway. The biggest problem is the tanks. The film was shot in Spain, and the Spanish army provided American M47s painted to look like German Tigers and King Tigers. They look nothing like the real thing. The terrain is also completely wrong. The real Battle of the Bulge took place in the densely forested Ardennes in winter. The film was shot in sunny Spanish plains because that is where the tanks were. Accuracy took a back seat to logistics, but what the film lacks in historical fidelity, it makes up for in scale. The tank battles are enormous. Dozens of vehicles moving across open ground, firing live rounds, crews coordinating complex maneuvers. Anakin choreographed the battles like war ballets, and they are genuinely thrilling to watch, even if they bear little resemblance to the actual battle. Robert Shaw plays the German Panzer commander, and he is the best part of the film. Fanatical, brilliant, and completely convinced that Germany can still win. He delivers a speech about the superiority of German armor that is both chilling and absurd. Shaw plays it completely straight, and it works. The film cost $6.5 million and made over $11 million worldwide. Critics savage it for historical inaccuracy. Dwight Eisenhower publicly criticized the film, saying it bore no resemblance to the real battle. Veterans agreed. The film was too clean, too sunny, and ignored the brutal winter conditions that defined the actual fighting. Despite all that, the Battle of the Bulge remains a favorite among war film fans who can forgive the inaccuracies and just enjoy the spectacle. The tank combat is fantastic, the cast is strong, and the action never stops. Number 7. The Dirty Dozen. Robert Aldrich directed This Men on a Mission classic, and it became one of the most influential war films ever made. Lee Marvin plays Major Reisman, assigned to train 12 convicted military criminals for a suicide mission behind German lines. The catch is these men are murderers, rapists, and psychopaths, and Reisman has to turn them into a functional unit before D-Day. The cast is incredible. Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, John Cassavetes, Telly Savalas, Donald Sutherland, Clint Walker, all of them playing damaged, dangerous men, given one chance at redemption. Cassavetes got an Oscar nomination for playing a psychopath who hates authority and loves violence. He is terrifying and magnetic in every scene. The first 2 acts are training and preparation, showing how Reisman breaks these men down and rebuilds them into soldiers. The third act is the mission itself, a raid on a French chateau full of German officers. Aldrich shot the finale like a horror movie. The dozen trap the Germans in a bunker and pour gasoline down the ventilation shafts, then drop grenades. Officers and their mistresses burn alive while trying to escape. It is brutal and ugly, and it pushed the boundaries of what mainstream war films could show. The MPAA gave it an R rating, one of the first major studio films to get that designation. Some critics accused Aldrich of glorifying violence and making war look fun. Others argued the film was clearly anti-war, showing the moral compromises required to win, and the cost of turning criminals into killers. The film cost $5.4 million and made over $45 million worldwide, becoming one of the biggest hits of 1967. It spawned countless imitators, established the men on a mission template, and influenced everything from The Wild Geese to Inglourious Bastards. Lee Marvin later said, The Dirty Dozen was one of his favorite films because it did not pretend war was noble. It showed war as a dirty job done by flawed men in impossible situations. That honesty is why the film still works decades later. Number 6. Where Eagles Dare.
Allow me to introduce myself. Major Johann Schmidt, SS, Military Intelligence, Stuttgart.
Richard Burton.
Brian Hutton directed this Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood thriller, and it is pure adrenaline from start to finish. The plot involves a team of Allied commandos infiltrating an impregnable Nazi fortress in the Bavarian Alps to rescue an American general. Except nothing is what it seems, and the film spends 2 hours and 58 minutes unraveling double crosses, triple crosses, and insane action sequences. Alistair MacLean wrote the screenplay specifically for Burton and Eastwood, and he packed it with twists. Almost every character is either a double agent or is revealed to be one. By the end, you are not sure who is actually on which side, and that paranoia drives the tension higher than any gunfight could. The action is spectacular. The team parachutes onto a mountain, infiltrates the castle via cable car, fights through Nazi soldiers, escapes on a bus, fights on top of a cable car, and blows up half the mountain on the way out. Eastwood does most of his own stunts, and Burton gamely tries to keep up, despite being terrified of heights. The production was shot in Austria using real castles and real mountains. The cable car sequences were filmed on an actual cable car system, with stunt performers dangling hundreds of feet above the ground. No green screen, no rear projection, just real people doing real stunts in real danger. When Eastwood climbs onto the cable car while it is moving, that is actually him up there. The film has almost no character development and the thinnest possible plot, but it does not matter. Hutton keeps the pace so relentless that you do not have time to think about logic. Burton and Eastwood have great chemistry despite their completely different acting styles, and watching them mow down Nazis for 3 hours is endlessly entertaining. Where Eagles Dare made over $21 million and became one of the most successful war films of the decade. It is not realistic, it is not profound, but it is expertly crafted action filmmaking. Number 5. The Heroes of Telemark.
Doctor, and you're going to tell me?
I'm telling you nothing.
Do you think that I'm going to sacrifice the lives of 6,000 people on the opinion of a plane?
Anthony Mann directed this Norwegian resistance thriller starring Kirk Douglas, and it is one of the most underrated World War II films of the decade. The story follows Norwegian scientists and resistance fighters trying to sabotage the Nazi heavy water production facility at Vemork, essential for Hitler's atomic bomb program. The mission was real, the stakes were real, and Mann shot it like a tense procedural mixed with commando action. Kirk Douglas plays the resistance leader, and he clashed constantly with Mann during production. They had worked together successfully on several westerns, but their relationship fell apart on this film. Douglas wanted more heroics and action. Mann wanted realism and moral complexity. The tension got so bad that Douglas reportedly punched Mann during an argument, and they never worked together again. Despite the behind-the-scenes chaos, the film is excellent. Mann shot on location in Norway using the actual landscapes where the sabotage took place. The factory raid sequence is tense and meticulously choreographed, showing exactly how the saboteurs infiltrated the facility, placed explosives, and escaped without casualties. Historians praise the film for sticking close to the real events. The heavy water subplot gives the film weight beyond typical commando action. The characters understand they are not just blowing up a factory, they are potentially preventing Nazi Germany from developing nuclear weapons. That urgency drives every decision, and Mann never lets you forget what is at stake. Richard Harris plays the scientist who provides the mission's technical expertise. His chemistry with Douglas is strained, which actually works for the story since their characters do not entirely trust each other. The Norwegian resistance members are played by actual Norwegian actors, adding authenticity to the resistance scenes. The film made modest returns at the box office, but was overshadowed by bigger war films like The Dirty Dozen and The Guns of Navarone. Critics appreciated Mann's attention to detail and refusal to sensationalize the story. Over time, The Heroes of Telemark has been recognized as one of the more historically accurate World War II films of the era, and as a fitting final war film from Anthony Mann before his death. Number 4. 6-3. 3 Squadron.
This much I can tell you, though. No squadron has ever been sent out on a more critically important operation.
Walter Grauman directed this RAF bomber film, and it features some of the most spectacular aerial combat footage of the 60s. Cliff Robertson plays the wing commander of a Mosquito squadron tasked with destroying a German fuel depot hidden in a Norwegian fjord. The mission requires precision flying through narrow mountain valleys at near-suicidal speeds, and the film builds tension by showing just how impossible the task really is. The production used real de Havilland Mosquito aircraft, and that is what makes the flying sequences so incredible. These were actual World War II bombers, still airworthy in 1964, and the filmmakers put them through their paces. The valley runs, the low-level bombing, the dogfights, all of it was filmed practically with real pilots doing real stunts. No models, no rear projection, just cameras mounted on aircraft capturing genuine high-speed flying. Cliff Robertson was not the first choice for the lead. Richard Burton was originally attached but dropped out. Robertson stepped in and trained with RAF pilots to understand the technical aspects of flying Mosquitoes. His performance is understated and effective, showing a commander struggling with the weight of sending men on near-suicide missions. George Chakiris plays the Norwegian resistance fighter who provides intelligence for the mission, and his subplot adds emotional weight to the military action. The film takes time to show the cost of occupation and the desperation of people living under Nazi rule. It is not just background, it is integral to the mission's importance. The final attack on the fuel depot is breathtaking. The squadron flies in formation through the fjord, skimming the water, mountains rising on both sides, German anti-aircraft fire exploding around them. The choreography is incredible, and the fact that it was all done practically makes it even more impressive. When planes crash, the aircraft are real and being destroyed for the camera. 633 Squadron made over $7 million worldwide and became a favorite among aviation enthusiasts. Ron Goodwin's score became iconic, later used in countless documentaries and even by the RAF itself. The film proved you could make a thrilling war movie focused entirely on air combat, without ground battles or infantry scenes. Number 3. The Devil's Brigade.
You don't need all that space, do you? Even with that enormous fat behind of yours? The human body has numerous vulnerable points.
Andrew McLaglen directed this men on a mission film about the 1st Special Service Force, a joint American-Canadian commando unit trained for impossible assignments. William Holden plays the American colonel, tasked with turning a group of misfits and criminals into elite soldiers. Cliff Robertson plays his Canadian counterpart, Together, they have to forge one cohesive unit from two armies that do not trust each other. The film is based on the true story of the Devil's Brigade, a real unit that fought in Italy and France and terrified the Germans with their unconventional tactics. The training sequences take up the first hour, showing the brutal process of turning undisciplined soldiers into commandos. McLaglen does not rush it. He shows the fights, the failures, and the gradual respect building between American and Canadian soldiers who started out hating each other. The second half shifts to combat. The brigade is sent to take a German-held mountain in Italy that conventional forces could not capture. The climb is brutal, filmed on location in Utah, standing in for the Italian Alps. The final assault is violent and chaotic, with hand-to-hand combat in trenches and bunkers. McLaglen shot it unflinchingly, showing just how ugly close-quarters fighting really was. William Holden and Cliff Robertson have great chemistry, despite their characters being rivals for most of the film. Holden plays the hard-ass American who believes discipline comes from fear. Robertson plays the more measured Canadian who earns loyalty through respect. Watching their methods clash and eventually merge is one of the film's strengths. The supporting cast is loaded with character actors. Richard Jekyll, Claude Akins, Carol O'Connor, all playing various members of the brigade. Each gets moments to shine, and McLaglen makes sure you care about them before sending them into combat. The film made over $8 million and was a solid hit in 1968. Veterans of the actual 1st Special Service Force praised it for accuracy, particularly the training scenes and the depiction of the mountain assault. The Devil's Brigade is not as well known as The Dirty Dozen, but it is a better film in many ways, grounded in real history and more interested in characters than spectacle. Number 2. In Harm's Way.
The captain.
Otto Preminger directed this massive naval epic starring John Wayne, Kirk Douglas, Patricia Neal, and Henry Fonda in a sprawling story about the Pacific Fleet after Pearl Harbor. The film runs 2 hours and 45 minutes and covers everything from the attack itself to the battles of Midway and Guadalcanal. It is ambitious, messy, and absolutely fascinating. John Wayne plays Rear Admiral Torrey, a career naval officer who loses his command after Pearl Harbor due to circumstances beyond his control. Kirk Douglas plays his executive officer, a bitter, vengeful man whose son despises him. Their relationship is the emotional core of the film. Two damaged men trying to win a war while their personal lives collapse around them. Preminger shot the film in black and white despite the studio's preference for color. He believed color would make the naval battles look like a spectacle instead of war. He was right. The black and white cinematography gives the film a documentary quality that color would have destroyed. The naval combat feels gritty and real, not glamorous. The production used real Navy ships and aircraft, and the cooperation from the Department of Defense was extensive. Preminger got access to carriers, destroyers, submarines, and aircraft for filming. The battle sequences use a mix of real footage, models, and practical effects, and they blend together remarkably well. What sets In Harm's Way apart is its willingness to show the moral complexity of command. Wayne's character makes mistakes that get men killed. Douglas's character is a toxic leader whose personal vendettas compromise missions. Fonda plays an admiral who prioritizes politics over strategy. These are not cartoon heroes. They are flawed men doing their best in impossible situations. The film made over $10 million, but was considered a disappointment given its budget and star power. Critics were mixed. Bosley Crowther praised the performances, but called the film overlong. Pauline Kael said it was too sprawling and needed a tighter focus. But over time, In Harm's Way has been reappraised as one of Preminger's most ambitious works and one of the best naval films of the era.
We're fighting for survival. Losing. We need pilots. And a miracle.
Guy Hamilton directed this absolutely massive recreation of the summer of 1940 when the RAF fought off the Luftwaffe in the skies over England. The film cost $12 million, making it one of the most expensive British films ever made. The production used over 100 aircraft, including real Spitfires, Hurricanes, Messerschmitts, and Heinkels. What you see on screen is not models or effects. It is real World War II, fighters dogfighting in real skies. The cast is absurd. Laurence Olivier, Michael Caine, Christopher Plummer, Robert Shaw, Trevor Howard, Kenneth Moore, Susanna York, all of them taking supporting roles because the real star is the battle itself. Nobody dominates the screen time. The film cuts between British and German perspectives, showing both sides as professional airmen doing their jobs, rather than as heroes or villains. The aerial combat is the most realistic ever, filmed up to that point. Hamilton used real pilots, flying real aircraft with cameras mounted on the planes and on the ground. The dogfights are fast, chaotic, and terrifying. Planes do not explode in fireballs. They catch fire and spiral down, trailing smoke. Pilots bail out and parachute into the ocean. It is brutal and unglamorous, exactly what real air combat looked like. The production took 2 years and nearly bankrupted United Artists. Assembling the vintage aircraft alone was a monumental task. They scoured Europe for airworthy Spitfires and Hurricanes. And when they could not find enough German planes, they modified Spanish-built Heinkels and Messerschmitts. The result was the largest collection of World War II aircraft ever assembled for a film. The film made over $15 million worldwide, but that was not enough to recoup the full costs. Critics praised the aerial sequences, but found the human drama lacking. The film has no central character, no real narrative arc, just a procedural recreation of the battle. Some viewers loved that approach. Others found it cold and distant. Decades later, The Battle of Britain is considered the definitive aerial combat film of the classic era. Fighter pilots still watch it for the flying sequences, and historians praise its accuracy. Hamilton achieved exactly what he set out to do, showing the Battle of Britain as it really was, not as a Hollywood myth. The 1960s gave us the last great wave of classical World War II epics. Big budgets, all-star casts, practical effects, and real hardware. Studios were willing to spend fortunes recreating history before CGI made everything cheaper and faker. These 15 films represent the peak of that era, and nothing since has matched their scale or authenticity.